So today we are taking some important questions of the cell and the tissues mainly. Okay, combined question we are trying to take. So cell and tissue we are taking. So let's start with the same. If I say like what will be the effect on the cell if we are putting the cell into the medium which have the low water concentration. So obviously, if I say water concentration is low and cell concentration is higher, okay. So what will happen? So if I say outside concentration is lower and cell concentration is higher, so water always move from higher to low. So liquid will move out from the cell to the outside medium. So obviously it will shrink. Okay. It will be endoosmosis. But suppose if the cell have the low water concentration than the surrounding, then it will be endoosmosis, right? So if you have the cell and if outside concentration is higher, so obviously water will go from outside to inside and the cell become turgid, it will swell, and this is known as a like endoosmosis. And this type of medium it will become hypotonic solution because cell is going to be swell. But suppose if I say if a cell has the higher concentration inside and outside has a lower, then obviously cell is, I mean the content is moving outside and you will call it as a exosmosis. And that exosmosis results into like thinning of cell, or you can say shrinking of the cell, and you can say it is a plasmolized cell. Okay, very simple it was. If I ask you like what is the main function of the lysosome, so if I talk about the lysosome, so obviously it is a cell organelles, right? Lysosomes are present in every eukaryotic cell. So if I talk about the lysosomes, so they are playing major role when the cell is damaged, okay, due to the disturbances in the cellular metabolism. So whenever like a cell is ruptured or whenever your cell is infected, so obviously this lysozyme burst, right? And it is releasing some hydrolytic digestive enzyme and it is digesting its own cell, right? So that's why can we say that lysosomes are called the suicidal bag, because it is killing its own cell and they are trying to protect the surrounding cell. That's why lysosome is also called the suicidal bag. So it releases enzyme whenever it is required. Fine. That's why it is called the suicidal bag. Very, very simple it is. Now if I talk about the, like there are certain thing like about the roles. If I talk about the roles of the like lipids and the proteins, so we know that there is a fluid mosaic model, and it is saying that like cell membrane is made up of the lipid bilayer, like there are two layers only. Cell membrane have two layers, and in middle there are certain integral protein as well, some peripheral protein as well. So some integral proteins, some peripheral proteins. So proteins and lipids, these are the two things which are present in a cell membrane. Okay. So lipids and the protein of plasma membrane, and they provide the flexibility to the cell membrane, and this flexibility make it selective, make this cell membrane selectively permeable in nature. So that selective permeability is actually because of the that nature of the cell membrane. Okay, that was about the cell membrane. Fine. If I talk about the cellulose in cell wall, so can we say that cellulose in the cell wall, it is actually providing the structural strength? Because we know that if I talk about fungus, if I talk about plants, cell wall is not present in the animal cell. But yes, definitely it is present in the plant and the fungus and certain bacteria. So yes, their cell wall is providing the structural strength to the cell, and it is actually preventing it from the busting of the cell. So whenever cell swells up, in the hypotonic solution. So this cell wall is trying to protect them, and it is protecting from the busting of the cell, क्योंकि इनको रिस्क थोड़ा ज्यादा होता है. That's why. Okay, so we need to remember that. If I talk about, suppose, I mean, as I just discussed about the cell like membrane. So the if somebody asks you what is the meaning of flexible nature of the cell membrane, so flexible nature of cell membrane, it means like it can also help in engulfing the food, okay, by making a suitable structure like xenopodia. So this cell membrane is quite flexible, or it can also selectively select the material to come in and to go outside. Okay, and sometimes they ask you, as we have discussed about the lysosome, like how lysosome is scaling its own cell. So obviously, because lysosome contains certain hydrolytic enzyme, na, they have some enzyme subparticles which help in the process of the cell digestion. Okay, and if I talk about the ribosomes, so ribosomes are the, can we say that these are the small structures which help in the protein synthesis? And these are actually uh, like this ribosome are the smallest structure, and it can attach to the endoplasmic reticulum as well. Some can be free as well in the cytoplasm. Okay, so ribosomes present in the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and they help in the formation of the protein synthesis. Remember that, very simple. There are certain question as well, like differentiate between the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So if I talk about, it's also a very important cell organelle, right? Smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and the second one is rough endoplasmic reticulum. These are the two structure. So smooth endoplasmic reticulum, it is a very smooth, and there is no ribosome on the surface, right? So it doesn't have any ribosomal particles on its surface, and this smooth endoplasmic reticulum help in the manufacture of the lipids and the fat molecules. Okay, so smooth will make only the lipids and the fat molecules, and it also help in the detoxifying many poisons and the many drugs in the liver cells of the, okay, vertebral, like we all are vertebrates na, so we have the liver cells. So yeah, that smooth endoplasmic reticulum is the one which help in the detoxifying the many drugs and the poisons. Okay, smooth endoplasmic reticulum. But if I talk about the rough endoplasmic reticulum, so it is quite rough, and it contains the ribosomes on the surface. So obviously it is the main site for the protein synthesis, right? Because it is rough and ribosomes are attached on the surface. So protein synthesis. So ribosomes are the main site for protein synthesis in all the active cell. Endoplasmic reticulum also help in the transporting the protein to the various places. Okay. So these are the building of the cell membrane. Sometimes they also ask you, like, what do you mean by the membrane biogenesis? So formation of that membrane, it is called membrane biogenesis, and which help in this process. So obviously smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So some proteins and the lipids are made by the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, right? And membrane contain these two things, lipids and protein. So that's why the smooth endoplasmic reticulum help in building up of the cell membrane, and this process is called the membrane biogenesis. Got it? Very simple. Sometimes they also ask you, like, there is a prokaryotic and eukaryotic. So obviously prokaryotic is the primitive one, okay, which are not so advanced. So if I talk about prokaryotic cells, so it doesn't have a well-defined nucleus, or you can say they have just the random DNA which is scattered, and that scattered structure is known as a nucleoid. Nucleoid. But if I talk about our cells, so we have a well-defined nuclear structure. Okay, nucleoplasm, nuclear content it has. Okay, and it is known as a nucleus. It contains so many chromosomes, well-defined structure, completely. Nuclear pores are also there. Chromatin material is also there. Okay. So this thing you need to remember. So this is a nucleoid and this is the nucleus. Simple. If I talk about the uh, plant cell and the animal cell, we have to tell the difference. So if I talk about the plant cell, so obviously this is very simple question which I am taking. Cell wall is present, right, in the plant cell. Plastids are also present. Plastid contain the three things, if you remember that I told you, right? Like chloroplast, chromoplast, okay, and last is the leucoplast, which is helpful in the storage. So storage, chromoplast provide the color, chloroplast provide the photosynthesis, right? Leucoplast help in the storage. So it is the function of the plastid. And in the plant cell, vacuole inside the cell, vacuole is very high. I mean, vacuole, a very large vacuole is present actually. Okay, and centrioles are not there. Centrioles is not there here. But if I talk about animal cells, centriole are there. Plastid are absent. Cell wall is also absent, and vacuole can be very small or absent. Okay, so vacuole can be absent or it may be like not there. And centriole is present, obviously, yes. Only one is positive thing. Centriole is absent. I mean, in the animal cell, centriole is present, but in the plant cell, centriole is not there. So centriole plant में नहीं होता, लेकिन animal में होता है. Remember. Sometime they will ask you a very important portion, like जैसे कि 1 marks के लिए क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया जाता है कि which plant cell, okay, like determine the functioning and the development of the cell. So function and development of cell कौन decide करता है? तो obviously it is nucleus. वो न्यूक्लियस ही तो है जो कि डेवलपमेंट करता है, फंक्शन करवाता है. So nucleus is the one, okay, which determine the function and the development of the cell. Okay, which help in the packaging materials coming from the endoplasmic reticulum. So which cell organelle package the material जो endoplasmic reticulum से आ रहा है, तो वो कौन करता है पैकेजिंग उसकी? So obviously Golgi apparatus ना. Golgi apparatus is the one which help in the packaging of the materials which come from the endoplasmic reticulum. So from endoplasmic reticulum, material usually go to Golgi apparatus for modification and some packaging. If I tell you like which provide the resistance to the microbe inside like to the cell, तो सेल को बस्ट होने से कौन बचाता है और माइक्रोब से कौन बचाता है? Which structure? I told you it is the cell wall only na. So cell wall is the one which protect the cell from the busting from the microbe, isn't it? If I ask you which is the site for the biochemical reaction necessary to sustain the life, वो कौन सी साइट है जहां पे बहुत सारी बायोकेमिकल रिएक्शन होती है? Which site is essential for the biochemical reactions? So can we say it is cytoplasm only? So cytoplasm is the site for the many biochemical reaction and they are necessary to sustain the life. So cytoplasm is the only one. So cytoplasm is the site for the many biochemical reaction. And if I talk about there is a fluid which is present inside the nucleus, what is the name of that fluid? So we will say nucleoplasm. Okay. So inside the nucleus, there is a nucleoplasm and same like inside the cell, there is a cytoplasm. So same thing inside the nucleus, there is a nucleoplasm. Okay. Very simple. After that, we should know one more thing. Uh, like what is the meaning of the turgidity and the rigidity? So turgidity and rigidity are actually very essential for the plant. Okay. So because in the plant cell there is a very large central vacuole which is filled with the cell content. Okay, like some material. So these substances, it can be amino acid, it can be sugar, it can be organic acid, some protein. So so that is the turgidity. Okay, and the rigidity. So turgidity and rigidity जो पूरे plant को इतना holding structure दे रहा है, it is not so flexible. It is all because of the uh, like you can say vacuole. Vacuole is the one. And after that, yeah, we all already aware about the hypertonic and hypotonic, right? Now the thing is, if I say chromatin and chromatid and chromosome, how they are related? Actually, chromosome structure is something look like this. Okay, this is a chromosome. And if I talk about the chromatid, so these tail-like structure which are coming from the central, it is called the chromatid. Okay. If I talk about like chromatin, so this chromosome, this chromatid is actually made up of a DNA which is called the chromatin material. Okay, so this chromatid is containing a DNA. Okay, very complicated network it is in this is chromosome. Okay, and this is called centromere, the central part. So this central part of the chromosome, it is called the centromere. Very simple. So if I talk about like in the there are like shakalgandi like sweet potato, so it is a root, okay, which is storing something. So it is all because of the leucoplast. If I say leaves color is green, so we can say it is a chloroplast. If I say fruit color, flower color, so can we say it is all because of the chromoplast? So all these three things come under the plastid only. तो प्लास्टिड के तीन टाइप होते हैं, ल्यूकोप्लास्ट जो कि चीजें स्टोर करता है, चाहे वो स्टेम हो, चाहे वो रूट हो, चाहे वो फ्रूट्स हो। तो ल्यूकोप्लास्ट तो ये स्टोरेज खाने की, ग्लूकोज, प्रोटीन, मोस्टली ग्लूकोज। इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द लीव्स कलर, लीव्स के अंदर ग्रीन कलर है, व्हाई? इट इज ऑल बिकॉज ऑफ द क्लोरोप्लास्ट। एंड लास्ट, फ्लावर एंड द फ्रूट्स। So if I talk about fruits and the flower, so actually it is a chromoplast. Chromo. So these are the three things which are very much needed. Okay. So obviously, if I say there are two kind of the cell division. Okay, first is the mitosis and the second is the meiosis. तो अगर सेल डिवाइड होता है और क्रोमोसोम नंबर सेम रहते हैं जैसे पहले थे, मान लो 23 का एक सेल था, वो दो में बढ़ गया और अभी भी 23 ही है, इसका मतलब कुछ डुप्लीकेट हुआ था तभी तो वो डिवाइड हुआ। सो दिस टाइप ऑफ डिवीजन इज कॉल्ड माइटोसिस। ये हमारे नॉर्मल सेल्स में होता है। लेकिन व्हेन वी प्रोड्यूसेस द गैमेट, सो ये एक सेल से जब दो सेल स्पर्म बनते हैं, सो लाइक इट इज 20। सपोज मान लो अगर कोई एक सेल है 46, अब ये 46 होने की वजह 23 हो गया, इट मींस हाफ हो गया पहले के मुकाबले। सो दैट लाइक क्रोमोसोम नंबर रिड्यूसेस टू हाफ, इट इज कॉल्ड मियोसिस। और ये हमारे रिप्रोडक्टिव सेल्स में होता है, ह्यूमंस के। Meiosis is a reduction division. Mitosis is a normal cell division, 1 to 2 cell, but meiosis take place in the reproduction only. Like half of chromosomes are coming from the mom and dad. Okay. And if I talk about like जो transportation channel होते हैं, okay. So the transportation channels कौन करवाता है? Transportation channels कौन है? So obviously we will say it is a endoplasmic reticulum, na? Endoplasmic reticulums are the transporting channel. It help in the transportation of material. If I say powerhouse of the cell, so we will say mitochondria it is. पैकेजिंग एंड डिस्पैचिंग यूनिट ऑफ द सेल, पैकेज और उसे डिस्पैच कौन करता है? ऑब्वियसली गोल्गी बॉडी। ओके, गोल्गी बॉडीज। इफ आई टॉक अबाउट डाइजेस्टिव बैग क्या है सेल का? ऑब्वियसली वी विल से लाइसोसोम। इफ आई से स्टोरेज बैग क्या है? सो वी विल से वैक्यूल। इफ आई से किचन ऑफ द सेल कौन है? वी विल से क्लोरोप्लास्ट, क्लोरोप्लास्ट। एंड इफ आई से कंट्रोल रूम कौन है सेल का? कंट्रोल रूम जहां से हर चीज होती है, रूम। सो ऑब्वियसली इट इज न्यूक्लियस। तो सेल का जो कंट्रोल रूम होता है, it is only the nucleus which you need to remember. Okay, so these are the, after that there is a question like there are certain cell organelle which are known as a semi-autonomous. Autonomous means which are free, which are not depending upon the others. So autonomous means, can we say that mitochondria and plastid, I mean the chloroplast, they are semi-autonomous? Why? Because they can prepare, I mean they have their own DNA, they can prepare their own protein, they are not depending on the others. So mitochondria and chloroplast, they have their own DNA. Okay, that's why they are known as a semi-autonomous. And if I talk about what do you mean by the endocytosis? What is the meaning of that endocytosis? So can we say that obviously plant cells have a rigid structure, right? Because of the cell wall, and but in the animal cell, they don't have the cell wall. So it means endocytosis can be there, like anything can easily enter inside the cell. So in the animal cell, anything can easily enter into it by the osmosis or the diffusion. Okay, we have to remember that. And of course, so sometimes there is a statement like a cell is a building unit of an organism. So of course, because without cell there will be no structure, and if there will be no structure, so obviously we can't perform any kind of function. So obviously cell per cell, group of cell combine to form tissues, tissues combine to form organ. Okay, then a collection of organ, it will become organ system, and finally it work as a complete organism, right? So everybody know about that. And if I talk about the structure of the mitochondria, so mitochondria is a double membrane structure, and in the inner membrane we see some foldings. Okay, so it's a double membrane, it is very porous, inner membrane is very deeply folded, and these are called the cristae. And on this cristae there is a bulb like structure like this. Okay, and these bulb like structure are known as the oxysomes, where chemical reaction take place and finally ATP is produced. So on this structure of cristae, there are certain oxysomes, and yes, there is a fluid which is called the liquid matrix. Okay, and these are work as a ATP generating chemical reaction. So ATP generating chemical reaction happen only here. Sometimes they will also ask you like what type of plastids store starch, oil, or protein. So obviously leucoplast can help to store like if I talk about starch, so starch is stored in the amyloplast, right? Oil is stored in helioplast. And if I talk about protein, so protein is stored in aleuroplast. So different material, so name is also different. So I can say, if I am talking about the leucoplast na, so protein is stored in the amyloplast. Okay, and if I talk about the starch, oh sorry, my bad. Actually, for the protein, it's a aleuroplast, isn't it? Aleuroplast, because amyloplast is basically for the starch. You remember na amylase enzyme. So it act on the starch only, that's why. Aleuro means protein, amylo starch, and elio it is a oil. So for the fats and the oil, so it is a eleoplast. Okay. And what is the main function of the Golgi apparatus? It is a very important question. So we have to remember storage, modification, and the packaging of the product in the form of the vesicles. ये छोटे छोटे structures के रूप में इसे हम vesicles बोलते हैं. These small structures are the vesicles. So storage, modification, and the packaging is done by the Golgi apparatus. And endoplasmic reticulum, obviously, it is a site of protein synthesis. So if I talk about the, yeah, lysosome is a membrane bound sac filled and with a powerful digesting enzyme, obviously. So if I talk about the function of lysosome, so they are the like waste disposal system of the cell, as they help to keep the cell clean, okay, by digesting any foreign material or any worn out cell organelles. Remember that. And yes, of course, lysosome is a self-destructive because it always try to protect the other surrounding cells, isn't it? So these questions are all about your cell, and I guess it is more than enough for the cell. Now we are going to discuss about the tissues. So if I discuss about the tissues, so obviously if I say what do you mean by the blood platelets? So can we say these are the cells which are present in the plasma of the blood or blood corpuscles, and they help in the clotting of the cell whenever we get injured? So it is the platelet only, right, which help in the clotting. If I talk about which type of the connective tissue that is found between the skin and the muscle, स्किन जैसे स्किन और मसल्स के बीच में गैप होता है, तो हमारी बॉडी में तो ऐसा कोई गैप है ही नहीं, तो then what? So for the skin and muscles, we have the areolar tissue. So areolar tissue is the connective tissue which is present between the skin and the muscle. Name the tissue which is present in the brain. Obviously, nervous system, right? Nervous system. If I talk about the like in the plant cell, obviously we know there is a simple tissue and there is a complex. So in the simple tissue, we have the three type of cell like parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. So which one have the deposition of lignin out of this parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma? So obviously it is a sclerenchyma, na? Sclerenchyma has the lignin deposition and it is not live, it is a dead cells. Okay. Which one has the basic packaging tissue of the cell? Basic packaging tissue का कौन सा होता है? Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Basic packaging. Basic packaging is actually the parenchyma, जो स्टोर भी करता है और पैकेज भी करता है. ओके. कॉलेनकाइमा तो बेंडिंग के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल होता है, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल होता है, सपोर्ट के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल होता है. ओके. इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द जाइलम फ्लोएम फंक्शन, तो ये तो बहुत ही सिंपल होगा, राइट? जाइलम वाटर मिनरल को ट्रांसपोर्ट करता है, फ्लोएम फूड को फ्रॉम लीव टू द वेरियस पार्ट ऑफ द बॉडी. If I talk about the which body cell provide the resistance against infection, so it is a W. So white blood cell is the one which provide the resistance against the infection. Okay. और ऐसा कौन सा बायोकेमिकल है जो कि सॉलिड मैट्रिक्स बनाता है कार्टिलेज की? आई मीन ऐसा क्या है जो कि कार्टिलेज को थोड़ा हार्ड बना देता है विदाउट बोन भी? सो ऑब्वियसली इट इज द हार्ड प्रोटीन एंड द शुगर. सो प्रोटीन प्लस शुगर make up the solid matrix of the cartilage, right? तो वो प्रोटीन और शुगर है जो कि सॉलिड मैट्रिक्स बनाते हैं कार्टिलेज का. और हमारी बॉडी में वो कौन सा कनेक्टिव टिश्यू है जो कि रिपेयरिंग ऑफ टिश्यू करते हैं? अगर कोई भी चीज डैमेज हो जाती है तो उसको रिपेयरिंग कौन करता है? सो यू हैव टू रिमेम्बर, इट इज एरियोलर. ओके, इट इज द एरियोलर कनेक्टिव टिश्यू, एरियोलर connective tissue which helps in the repairing of the tissue. तो हमारी बॉडी में कोई भी इंजरी होती है तो ये एरियोलर से ही ठीक होती है, रिमेम्बर दैट. एंड विच मसल इज स्पिंडल शेप? कौन सी मसल है जो कि इस तरीके की शेप की होती है, स्पिन? सो इट इज अ स्मूथ मसल एंड दे आर नॉट इन अवर कंट्रोल, राइट? ये हमारी बॉडी के अंदर की साइड होती है. ऐसा कौन सा मेरिस्मेटिक टिश्यू है जो कि हाइट को बढ़ाने में हेल्प करता है टिप में? चाहे वो रूट हो, चाहे वो शूट हो या रूट हो, तो इट इज अ एपिकल मेरिस्टम. और थिकनेस के लिए लेटरल, राइट? लेटरल मेरिस्टम. तो मेरिस्मेटिक जो कभी कभी, अब मेरिस्मेटिक की बात आई गई है, तो मेरिस्मेटिक सेल के क्या फीचर्स होते हैं? सो दीज सेल्स कंटिन्यूअसली डिवाइड, राइट? एक से दो सेल, दो से चार, चार से आठ, आठ से 16, so they are continuously dividing cell, and after some time they automatically become the permanent, right? तो मेनली जो ग्रोथ होती है वो मेरिस्मेटिक करवाती है. इनके पास कोई वैक्यूल तो होता नहीं है. साइटोप्लाज्म भी बड़ा ही डार्क होता है, बड़ा ही डेंस होता है, क्योंकि एक से दो बनने बनने होते हैं, दो से चार. और इनका न्यूक्लियस भी काफी बड़ा होता है, प्रोमिनेंट न्यूक्लियस इट हैज. लिगामेंट और टेंडन में डिफरेंस क्या होता है? ऑब्वियसली लिगामेंट एक कनेक्टिव टिश्यू है which joins bone to bone and it is elastic in nature, but tendon is connecting the bone to the muscle, and वो इतने इलास्टिक भी नहीं है, it is not that elastic. Okay. इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टम, जैसे एपिकल और लेटरल तो हो गया, इंटरकैलरी कहाँ पे होता है? ये लीफ के बेस पर पाया जाता है और इंटरनोड पे होता है, राइट? और ये भी हाइट को ही बढ़ाता है. ओके. और जो पेरेन्काइमा होता है, पेरेन्काइमा कैन बिकम आल्सो समथिंग. व्हाट इज दैट? सो पेरेन्काइमा कैन मेक टू मोर स्ट्रक्चर, एरेन्काइमा, क्लोरेन्काइमा. सो एरेन्काइमा के अंदर क्या होता है? इट कंटेन्स लार्ज एयर कैविटीज which provide the buoyancy to the plant. तो it is present in the aquatic plant, जैसे floating leaves, कुछ aquatic plant होते हैं. If I talk about the chlorenchyma, so chlorenchyma contain the chlorophyll and they can perform photosynthesis. Okay. So collenchyma allows the easy bending, as I told, without breaking, and it also provide the mechanical support. Remember that. What about the epidermis? So epidermis is usually a single layer, right, जो कि protection provide करती है. Yeah. So if I ask you what is the main function of the nervous tissue, so it help in the control and coordination of the body, right? It also help us to giving the response towards any stimulus, कोई भी action का reaction देने के लिए. और हमारी बॉडी में सारे हार्मोनल, आई मीन पूरा एक नेटवर्क जो ट्रांसपोर्ट होता है उसके लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल है. ओके. नर्वस टिश्यू, sensations. If I talk about the types of epithelial, obviously we know that squamous, बहुत ही flat layers, then cube-like, cuboidal, then columnar, बहुत ही tall cells, okay, taller cells, then which have the cilia, जिन पे cilia निकले होते हैं, and last is the glandular, जो कि बहुत सारे hormones निकालते हैं, right? So glandular one. And if I talk about the uh, suppose if I say muscles, so obviously we have striated muscle, क्योंकि why they are called striated? Because they have these striations. they have the alternate light and dark band, and they are in our control, हमारी body में होते हैं, हम इसे move कर सकते हैं जब चाहे. That's why they are also called skeletal one. Smooth muscle are present inside the body, they are spindle shape, not in our control. Or cardiac, we already know that cardiac is highly branched, they are continuously beating, continuously working. Okay, they have intercalated disc which make them quite strong to be 24 into 7. Yeah. And if I talk about blood, so you know it, 55% of the blood is plasma and 45% is blood corpuscles. Within the blood corpuscles, obviously we have the erythrocyte, leukocyte, I mean platelet, erythrocyte, leukocyte, thrombocytes. If I talk about the plasma, plasma contain only the water. I mean some water, some proteins, some ions, albumin, globulin, fibrinogen. So it is the plasma which you need to remember. Okay. So it is all about the most important question of the tissues. And what do you mean by the adipose tissue? Adipose tissue contain the adipocytes and they work as an insulator. So adipose tissue contain the adipocytes, and these adipocytes are like fat cells, you can say. Okay, and they provide the insulation, they prevent you from the shock. Okay. And if I talk about the लाइक दी, जैसे बहुत सारे टाइप के मैंने पढ़े हैं, तो जो ब्लड वेसल्स की जो लाइनिंग होती है ये, सो ये किसकी बनी होती है? ऑब्वियसली स्क्वैमस एपिथेलियल. ओके. जो स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन की लाइनिंग होती है वो काफी थिक भी होती है, तो दैट इज लाइक क्वाइट थिक भी होती है, तो वो किसकी बनी होती है? सो दैट इज मेड अप ऑफ द कॉलमनर एपिथेलियल. किडनी की जो लाइनिंग्स होती हैं, किडनी की लाइनिंग, सो इट इज अ क्यूबॉइडल एपिथेलियल. एंड एपिथेलियल सेल जो होते हैं सीलिया के साथ, सो इट इज अ सीलिएटेड सेल, सीलिएटेड एपिथेलियम. ओके. वाटर हाइसिंथ होता है, वो पानी के ऊपर आई मीन फ्लोट कर लेता है, डूबता नहीं है. व्हाई? बिकॉज इट हैज द एरेनकाइमा. एरेनकाइमा प्लांट्स को, it is providing the basic bioavailability and not providing, I mean not letting them to sink, right? Simple. Cork जो होता है usually, so cork possess the suberin content on their wall, which is making them impervious to the gas and water. Gas and water can't easily enter, so it contains the suberin, you know it. And bones किसकी बनी होती है? Calcium and phosphate, which make our bones very strong. Okay. And if I say why epidermis is so important, because it is the outermost layer of the cell covering the organism, right? It is made up of the single layer and provide the protection. It's a like kind of, it secrete the waxy water resistant layer, which is also called the cutin. तो ये water loss से बचाता है usually in desert area. Okay. Which structure help in the gases exchange? Obviously stomata. Okay. Okay, what are the complex tissues? Xylem, phloem. Which have the guard cell? Obviously stomata. Cells of the cork are known as cork. We will like material of the cork. We will say suberin. Which provide the which like a husk of the coconut contain what? Sclerenchyma. Which provide the flexibility of the plant? Flexibility. Collenchyma. If I say xylem transport what and what? So obviously we will say water and mineral, and phloem food. And from where? Leaf, क्योंकि खाना leaf में बनता है, तो leaf to all parts of body. So this is what, this is all about your like tissues portion. And न्यूरॉन के अंदर क्या होता है? इलेक्ट्रिकल सिग्नल चलते हैं, राइट? from dendrite to dendron, cell body, myelin sheath, I mean axon, and the nerve ending. And there is a gap between the two neuron synapse where chemicals are present, neurotransmitters, you can also say. Okay, animal tissues is very important, which we need to do. And if I talk about the last ones only, so hair like structures, I mean, why hair like structures present on the epidermal cells? So that they can increase the surface area for the absorption, right? If they have hair, epidermis has a very thick coating, waxy coating. So just to prevent the water loss by the transpiration, and of course from the pathogen protection. If I say presence of chemical suberin in a coxel, why? Because it is impervious to the gas and water, so that they can't directly enter into it, isn't it? So all these are the important portion. And remember, the epithelial is also very very important. So squamous is a flat cells. And where are they present? So in the esophagus, in the mouth, in the skin. Okay, and if they are present in many layer, so you will call it as it stratified, if they are present in many layers. And if I talk about the columnar cells, so they are called the pillar like cells, right? Very very long cells, these are the pillar like cells, and they protect you from the wear and tear. If I talk about the ciliated cells, so ciliated cells present in the female fallopian tube, in our trachea, which help in the transportation of the material from one part to another part. Okay, so these are the things which are very important from the tissues. So we have just discussed all the important part of the like cells and the tissues. I hope you get it everything. तो आज के लिए हम इतना ही करते हैं, ठीक है? बाकी के लिए हम नेक्स्ट में कवर करेंगे. सो बाय बाय, टेक केयर, सी यू. आज के लिए इतना ही.